Have you ever wondered why the Bible gives us four Gospels? I mean, they're all pretty much telling the same story, right? Well, not really. You see, each Gospel offers a different perspective and to a different audience to portray who we know is Jesus the Messiah. And today I'm going to be telling you about each Gospel writer's perspective and who their audience was, and why that's important to understand the Gospel and further our knowledge. When my dad told me about his concept for his new book, The Four Faces of Christ, specifically the four different aspects of God we are given through Jesus the Messiah in each of the Gospels, I immediately thought of this old story that I had heard before. Now, in this story, there was a man, and for whatever reason, this man decided to paint half of his body red and half of his body blue. Now, soon after, he wanted to walk through the middle of town and see how people would react. And as he walked through the crowd, people on the left and right were looking at him. And soon somebody came up behind him and asked to describe the man they had just seen. The people on the left side of the road said that they had seen a man in red. People on the right said they had seen a man painted blue. But what they all came to agree on was that they had all seen the same man. You see, the people's perspective shaped their reality. Depending on where they were standing determined what they saw. And what we find is that in the gospel, it's no different. Each one of the gospel authors offers a different perspective and shapes Jesus in a different light while still maintaining that he is the same man. In the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, we're given four unique perspectives. Matthew gives us the view of Jesus as the lion, the ruler, the king of Judah, son of David. Mark gives us a view of Jesus as a servant, contrasting that of Matthew, that Jesus humbled himself to serve us, though he is our God. Luke portrays Jesus as the sacrificial lamb, worthy to be slain for our sins. And finally, John, who portrays Jesus as the living Word, the true image of God. And all four of these come together to form the perfect picture of Christ, that we may know him and learn about him. But it's not just about the gospel author's perspective that shaped the way they wrote their gospels. Instead, it was their own background and their audience that they had to pay attention to. Now, their audience either consisted of a Jew, somebody living in or around Judea, practicing the Old Testament in Hebrew, or a Gentile, essentially an outsider, anybody who wasn't involved with the Jewish faith or culture. Starting off with Matthew, because Matthew really does have the smallest audience. Matthew was a Jew teaching to other Jews, so his audience already knew the Jewish background. Matthew expanded on this by comparing Jesus to biblical figures like David and Moses. And he often referenced Old Testament texts to tie in the Old Covenant with the new that Jesus offered. Luke, on the other hand, was not a Jew. He was a Gentile, speaking mainly to Gentiles, so he offered his own perspective. He emphasized Gentile stories where Jesus interacted with folks outside of the Jewish community. And he also interviewed many eyewitnesses to give a well-rounded story. Mark, on the other hand, was a Jew speaking to Gentiles, and he was able to give them the Jewish perspective for those who weren't Jews themselves. He also taught them why the Messiah matters to them and to the rest of the Roman Empire. And finally, we have John. John was a Jew, but his gospel was for the whole world. Because of this, he focused on Jesus' private life. And so this gospel is often the most popular because it doesn't show so much how Jesus interacted with the public world, but instead the private and the individual. Understanding an author's background, perspective, and audience can really bring what you're reading to a deeper level. So I highly encourage all of y'all to go and look at my father's new book, The Four Faces of Christ. In that book, he expands upon the ideas I've presented in this video and shows you what each gospel author was trying to portray Christ as he revealed himself. Now that link is going to be listed below, and it'll take you to Amazon where you can pre-order the book right now. I highly encourage you to do so. It's a great read, and it's a great study to do with friends. Thank you.